Hello students, hope you all are doing well. Today we are going to learn the poem The Last Bargain written by Rabindranath Tagore. Let's see something about the writer. Rabindranath Tagore was a Bengali writer born in Calcutta on May 7, 1861. He was a Bengali poet, short story writer, song composer, playwright, essayist, and a painter who introduced new prose and verse forms and the use of colloquial language into Bengali literature, thereby freeing it from traditional models based on classical Sanskrit. He was highly influential in introducing Indian culture to the West, and he is generally regarded as the outstanding creative artist of early 20th century India. In 1913, he became the first non-European to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. And the very famous Jana Gana Mana, our national anthem, was also written by Tagore. Now children, you all can take your textbook. The Last Bargain by Rabindranath Tagore. The poem foregrounds the most important message of the poet, of which he was a champion himself: freedom. That is the essence of this poem. The poem opens with a man seeking work but desires to keep his freedom. Walking on the stone-paved ground in the morning, he first meets the king. The king offers to buy the man's labor with his power. The man, however, doesn't find much worth in king's power and therefore refuses to be hired. Towards the midday, having walked in the heat of the sun, the man came across an old man. The old man carried a bag of money. He was very wealthy. He offered to buy the man's labor with his money. The man wasn't convinced to exchange his labors for money and moved on. In the evening, as he was crossing the garden hedge, the man came across to a fair maid. She offered to hire the man's service with her smile. The man couldn't find the lady's smile worth either. The lady's smile became pale and melted into tears. She didn't get the man's company either. Finally, the man reached the seashore and he saw a child playing with shells. The child made an offer too. His offer, though was unique, he offered to buy the man's service with nothing. The man was overwhelmed with this offer, for he was still a free man. He quickly accepted the offer and bargain was struck. So this is actually the summary of the poem. Now stanza wise I am going to explain. Now all of you can take your textbook. The Last Bargain by Rabindranath Tagore. Come and hire me, I cried, while in the morning I was walking on the stone-paved road. Sword in hand, the king came in his chariot. He held my hand and said, I will hire you with my power. But his power counted for naught, and he went away in his chariot. In the heat of the midday, the houses stood with shut doors. I wandered along the crooked lane. An old man came out with his bag of gold. He pondered and said, I will hire you with my money. He weighed his coins one by one, but I turned away. It was evening. The garden hedge was all aflower. The fair maid came out and said, I will hire you with a smile. Her smile paled and melted into tears, and she went back alone in the dark. The sun glistened on the sand, and the sea waves broke waywardly. A child sat playing with shells. He raised his head and seemed to know me, and said, I hire you with nothing. From thenceforward that bargain struck in child's play made me a free man. Now children, let's see the stanza wise explanation. Just see. First stanza. Come and hire me, I cried while in the morning I was walking on the stone-paved road. Sword in hand, the king came in his chariot. He held my hand and said, I will hire you with my power. But his power counted for naught, and he went away in his chariot. So here you can see the poem opens with a man. A man is crying in the morning to be hired by someone. So a man is just saying, come and hire me. And he is walking on a stone paved road looking for someone to hire his services. So when he was walking, he came across a king who was coming in his chariot. A king was coming in his chariot. The king immediately took the man's hand in his hand, and the king offered to buy his services with his power. Now what happened? The man, however, didn't find much worth in the offer. He didn't want to get suppressed under a mighty man's power, and therefore he moved on. Okay, so the first offer this man got was from the king. Okay, so the king, he came in a chariot. There was a sword in his hand, which indicates the power, the mighty power of the king. He held this person's hand and said that I am going to hire you with my power. But his power counted for naught. He was not ready to accept. He went away in his chariot. This man rejected the offer of the king, and the king went away in his chariot. The word naught here refers to nothing. Now stanza 2. In the heat of the midday, the houses stood with shut doors. I wandered along the crooked lane. An old man came out with his bag of gold. He pondered and said, I will hire you with my money. He weighed his coins one by one, but I turned away. Okay, what happened in the second stanza? The man kept walking, and it was midday, it was afternoon, and it was quite a hot day. Then he came only across some houses with doors that were shut because it was very hot. All people shut the door and they used to keep inside. So wandering along the crooked lane, the lane was crooked, it was zigzag, and he soon came across an old man who was holding a bag full of gold. There was an old man. He came across, or he met an old man, and what was the old man doing, or what was in his hand? A bag full of gold. The old man offered to pay the man with his gold in return of his services. So the old man offered gold and said to come along with him to do some work. But what happened? The offer of wealth did not temptate the man. The man was not ready to accept the offer, so he turned away. The word pondered here means thinking about something very carefully, especially before you make a decision. You think a lot, isn't it? So that is called pondered. Now let's move to stanza 3. It was evening. The garden hedge was all aflower. The fair maid came out and said, I will hire you with a smile. Her smile paled and melted into tears, and she went back alone in the dark. So here what happened? The evening time. So morning onwards, this man was wandering. So first he met a king, then in the afternoon he met an old man. So it was evening time. Then the man was unable to find a proper person whose offer would attract him. So when he was walking, he came across a garden full of beautiful flowers, and he came across a very beautiful maid standing there. The lady offered to hire the man with her smile. So the lady was ready to accept this man's service. She was smiling and standing there. The man realized that her beauty or smile was also not forever. Her smile faded away and tears replaced it. Okay, this lady was smiling, but after some time she started crying, and the smile faded away, and instead of smile, tears began to flow from her eyes. The man moved on, leaving the lady all by herself. So he understood that this maid, her character is not static. First she smiled, and after some time she started crying. So he understood this is not the right place to stay. So he left that lady and he started moving. The word paled here means to dim the brightness of a face because of some reasons like shock or fear. A face is suddenly become dim. You can say it is paled. Okay. Now let's move to stanza 4. The sun glistened on the sand, and the sea waves broke waywardly. A child sat playing with shells. He realized his head and seemed to know me and said, I hire you with nothing. From henceforward that bargain struck in child's play made me a free man. So what is said here? Finally this person reached the seashore. The sun was almost setting down, and the rays of the sun shone brightly on the sand. He saw a child playing with shells. Then the child looked up at the man, and the child understood. Actually, he might have understood what the man needs. Okay, so the child offered to hire the service of the man, but did not offer to pay anything in return. You know that a child doesn't have anything to give, is it? The child just said, I don't have anything to give you, but I am in need of your service. I want you, this child said in a very innocent way. Okay, very cute way the child spoke to this man. And that was the bargain that perhaps the man was looking for. There was no demands, no conditions, no payments or repayments. In playing with the child, he continued to hold on to his freedom. He was a free man still. Okay, so this person accepted this child. He was ready to offer his services to the child. Why? Because there was no conditions, is it? If you are getting, or if you are taking the money, you are obliged to that person, is it? You want to do all the work what he is saying. You don't what to say, have freedom. If you are accepting money and working under somebody, you have to be pay in return as your service. So here there is no money, there is no repayments, there is no demands, there is no condition. So this man was very happy that he has his freedom to enjoy all through his lifetime. And perhaps this was the most important thing that he was looking in his life. He wanted freedom and he wanted to live as a free man. So he accepted this bargain, and the bargain was struck. Struck means to reach an agreement. The deal was in union. That means the deal was being taken by both. So that is the meaning of the words. The bargain was struck. The waves broke waywardly. Waywardly means without any control. The waves of the sea were moving here and there, difficult to control. Glisten means shining. Then the word henceforth means from that point of time onwards. That is the meaning, henceforward. So in the last stanza it is said that the speaker rejected power, speaker rejected money and beauty, and he was not interested in any of the materialistic things of the world, and he wanted to be hired by someone who could offer some invaluable freedom to him, and he walked along searching to strike such a bargain. And when he was walking, he encountered with a child. The sun was shining brightly and its rays are reflected on the sand, and the speaker seems to be walking near the beach. Okay, and the sea waves They were very difficult to be controlled. It's an indication that it was not a calm day. And the state of unrest in the mind of the speaker is also depicted here. And when he was walking along, he encounters a child sitting by the beach. So, the child, when you analyze the character of the child, he is just sitting there and playing with the shells of the beach, enjoying his own company. He is very simple and does not have any possessions except for the seashells. And the child seemed to know the speaker, and it appears that he was waiting for his arrival. It was just like that, the attitude of the child. Okay, and through those lines, it's very clear that the speaker, more than money, power, or beauty, one's own work or passion needs to make him free and not bound to any materialistic possessions. So, children, once again, I'll quickly read and explain. Listen. Come and hire me, I cried, while in the morning I was walking on the stone paved road. Sword in hand, the king came in his chariot. He held my hand and said, I'll hire you with my power. But his power counted for naught, and he went away in his chariot. The poem opens with a man crying in the morning to be hired by someone. And he's just telling, come and hire me. And while he was walking on a stone paved road looking for someone to hire his services, he came across the king, who was coming in the chariot. And the king immediately took the man's hand in his hand and offered to buy his services. The man, however, didn't find much worth in the offer. He didn't want to get suppressed under a mighty man's power, and therefore he rejected the bargain and he moved on. In stanza 2, in the heat of the midday, the houses stood with shut doors. I wandered along the crooked lane. An old man came out with his bag of gold. He pondered and said, I will hire you with my money. He weighed his coins one by one, but I turned away. So in this, the man kept walking. It was a midday. It was a cold day. He came across some houses with doors that were shut. Wandering along the crooked lane, he came across an old man who was holding a bag full of gold. The old man offered to pay the man with his gold in return of his services. The offer doesn't seem to be much interesting, so he just dropped it and he went away. Now come to stanza 3. It was evening, the garden hedge was all aflower. The fair maid came out and said, I'll hire you with a smile. Her smile paled and melted into tears, and she went back alone in the dark. Now it was evening time. The man was unable to find a person whose offer would attract him. So he came across a garden full of beautiful flowers. He came across a beautiful maid standing there. The lady offered to hire the man with her smile. Then the man realized that her beauty or smile was also not forever. He understood that her smile will fade away soon. As he expected, this lady's smile faded away and tears replaced. So the man moved on, leaving the lady all by herself. Now stanza 4 is the most important portion of this poem. The sun glistened on the sand and the sea waves broke waywardly. The child sat playing with shells. He realized his head and seemed to know me and said, I hire you with nothing. From henceforward that bargain stuck in child play made me a free man. So what is said here? Innocence of the child managed to buy what power, wealth and beauty failed. Finally the man reached the seashore. The sun was almost setting down. It shone brightly on the sand. He saw the child playing with shells. The child looked up at the man. It seemed as if the child understood the man, and the child offered to hire the services, but did not offer to pay anything in return. That was the bargain that perhaps the man was looking for. There was no demands, no conditions, no payments or repayments. In playing with the child, he continued to hold on to his freedom. He was a free man still. So this person, even though he met a lot of people, he was not ready to accept their offers. So at last, freedom. Okay, freedom that he got from the child. The child didn't give anything, so he accepted the offer. Then Rabindranath Tagore, being a champion of human rights, invests a lot of faith in the idea of human freedom. The poem therefore showcases a willful rejection of power, money, and beauty, as none of these are as necessary for human growth and development as freedom. The works of the author especially coincide with the Indian national struggle, therefore, too, the idea of individual freedom is upheld and glorified. So, children, hope you all understood the explanation. Thank you.